sure enough, I'm trying to get home, and I'm in traffic. Okay, I accidentally cut somebody off. Right, like
Oops.
I didn't mean to. Like it wasn't like I wasn't driving recklessly. Like it's kind of one of those. Like they were stopped, and then so like I was going, but then like their light turned green.
Sure.
So like I was like, okay. Anyway, the guy flipped out at me, which triggered a response. While this was happening, I was talking to you on speakerphone. And so like not only you, but like our 2 children were there as well.
Yeah.
Our 2 kids were there, and there may have been some unholy comments that were made. This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate Marriagecast, where we hope to restore and reclaim godly marriages through honest and real conversations.
Welcome to episode 55. We are cruising through October. That's crazy. Fall is definitely among us.
Yeah.
And we're so glad that you're here joining us today. Welcome to our listener. Just thank you for investing in your marriage, your relationship. And we're just so glad now we're, on year 2, and it's been quite the ride and just really cool. Ryan, we got a really cool feedback comment on YouTube last week. Somebody said that it was Gold Star Council.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Gold Star Council this week.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for that. Thanks for that feedback. Today, no, I'm jumping ahead. What do you want to share?
Oh, man.
We're talking about pride today. Yes.
One other really cool thing that happened today, actually.
Yes.
Pastor Chris got a request from somebody to come on to the podcast.
Yes.
That's really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Michelle, we've shared this. We actually say this every single week. We started this podcast to have real, honest conversations. We wanted to create this forum where if there's ever a topic that comes up, that we want to bring it to light. And, I got thinking about this a few days ago, Michelle. I'm sure you probably got the same thing, but I got this alert on my phone.
Okay.
And it was like a weather alert saying Sioux Falls, where we live, there's a fire alert.
Yeah, really weird actually, because a lot of times it's on, out in the more tree forest areas, Montana, Wyoming, the coast. We've never gotten that alert that I recall in our area.
So, it's been super dry here. Basically what it's saying is conditions are right for a fire. And, it made me think, a lot about life and sometimes marriages and relationships, that sometimes there's something that just comes at you that is almost like a fire alert saying, hey, this is going on. We're seeing this all the time. We've seen it multiple times in couples in and out of the church. And I just wanted to consider this episode to be a fire alert.
Okay. This is your alert. And we are talking, like I said, we're talking about pride. And this, Ryan, this kind of came up because we were actually going in a different direction for this week's show. And before you think, oh no, I'm fine, it's just a reality check, because I think we all deal with pride and manifests in different ways in our marriage. But we were going in a different direction for this week's show. And we actually did a last minute pivot. And it really was kind of prompted by something that Pastor Chris, our church's family and marriage pastor, I always want to say therapist, which he is kind of like one, but the pastor of that, he just shared with us that our church is offering this class for finances, and we have a huge church and 0 people signed up for it. And this is like the top financial class in America. It's Financial Peace University. It's an amazing class. I've taken it. A lot of those principles from taking it 12, 14 years ago, we still apply in our marriage, and it's just brought some really, really great habits. Such a good program. So we offered that, and 0 people, 0 couples signed up.
Yeah.
And it could be busy season, maybe there's other stuff going on, but it really got us to thinking, because the church also receives a decent amount of requests from what we understand for, people will call when they're in crisis and say, oh my gosh, I need help. I need help right now. I need help right now. And they've waited until there's a raging fire in their life.
Right.
And even talking with some of the counselors we've had on the show, we know that finances are a big deal in marriages.
Yeah.
Yet people, for whatever reason, are not proactively taking tools and skills and workshops and classes to prevent their forest fire. So wanted to kind of tell you the background on that and then read some scripture about pride. So I want to take a look at what God's word says about this. This is from Proverbs 11:2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs 13:10 says, when there is strife, there's pride, but wisdom is found in those who take advice. And then again from Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. You hear that often. Pride comes before the fall.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think this looks like in real life for couples?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me personally, I've got actually two things. One, I think it's admitting, like for me personally, it's admitting when you make a mistake. You know, I think that's where pride comes in for me, is like acknowledging like, oh, that was dumb. You know, that was dumb. And then needing to go apologize for it. But doing that, you know, so like I have an example, and I don't remember what we were doing, but anyway, I was late. I was late coming home. I was stuck at work doing something, and we were leaving like on a trip. So everybody's waiting on me. So I'm late. I'm stressed. I had just a stressful day, right? And you know, sure enough, I'm trying to get home, and you know, I'm in traffic. Okay, I accidentally cut somebody off, right? Like oops. I didn't mean to. Like it wasn't like I wasn't driving recklessly. Like it's kind of one of those. Like they were stopped, and then so like I was going, but then like their light turned green.
Sure.
You know, and so like I was like, okay. Anyway, the guy flipped out at me, which triggered a response. While this was happening, I was talking to you on speakerphone. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't really remember what we were doing, but if I was getting ready for our family to leave, I probably was doing other stuff while I talked to you on speakerphone. Yeah.
You know, and so like not only you, but like our two children were there as well. Yeah. Our two kids were there. And, you know, there may have been some unholy comments that were made.
Sure.
By me.
Yeah.
And you know, so in any way.
Which is like, rare for you. I don't remember what it was either, but it was rare.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, whoa.
Right. And I mean, then you took me off speakerphone.
Because our, at the time, 8-year-old was listening.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I think, you know, I think coming home then and realizing like the mistake was made, letting go of my pride, not justifying it, letting go of my pride, apologizing to you and apologizing to each of our kids.
Yeah.
You know, that was a big one for me. And I think that's a big part of pride is acknowledging when that mistake is made and apologizing for it.
Well, I think it's a really mature thing to do because it takes, like we read, a lot of humility to do that, but also you're humbling yourself and saying, hey, I'm wrong, I was sorry, which is kind of embarrassing to do too. Yeah. It can be. Yeah. But in doing that, Ryan, I will say that you set such a good example for our kids because you could have justified it. I think a lot of times people do. Right. But then what are they learning?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the other quick story that I just want to share, and I've shared this before when Counselor Tony Tony Bohr was on with us. He's been on several shows, just a great guy. But I think it's also acknowledging for me, like when you need help.
Okay.
You know, there was a point, and I've shared this before, that it's like post-pandemic, you know, when we're kind of reintroducing to the world. You know, we've been locked up for whatever period of time, and then it's like, okay, everybody, let's go back to normal, you know. And honestly, the transition was very hard for me. and not knowing what was going on and what was happening and being so scared and like admitting that I don't know what I'm doing. This is scary to me, and getting help.
Yeah.
You know,
and will you share what that looked like for you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, and that was a call to a Christian counselor, you know, and seeing one for a period of time to kind of help me. And you know, doing that and letting go of my pride because I didn't want to.
You had never been to one before, even after losing a spouse.
Right.
And going through the grieving process.
Yeah.
You had not seen anyone.
Right.
So that really was a huge step for you.
It was. And, you know, actually just in full transparency, it was pride that kept me from going before, you know, probably when I needed to.
Yeah.
But it was pride in not being able to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. This is scary. This is tough. I need help. You know, so letting go of that, like when something happens and you need to let go of your pride and get the help that you need.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, I think that's two stories for me, kind of how, you know, how this looks and letting go of your pride. That's how it's looked for me.
Yeah. Those are great examples, Ryan. Thanks for sharing those. Being vulnerable.
What about you, Michelle? Is there a time for you that this kind of, you know, that pride had kind of gotten in the way, or that you know, maybe a time that you released that pride?
Yeah, I think mine tying to counseling as well. I think different seasons of my life where I really hit valleys and just realizing that, one, I really can't do this on my own. I need to turn to God. But then knowing that God has also gifted people here on earth that are wanting to help as well. Good Christian, godly people that can help. So, you know, I've shared eating disorder struggles. There was just an amazing couple of two different counselors that really helped me through that. But recently, I think probably with our daughter, we're pretty similar. And sometimes that leads to conflict because we both can be really stubborn. And she's wired in such a way that she can just be very so we're pretty similar in that we're kind of strong-headed, stubborn, but she is very factual and I'm very emotional. So some of the challenges that I run into with you, Ryan, that we as, you know, grown adults being married for almost 13 years have worked through and figured out how to really have a great harmony and a balance. For whatever reason, our daughter, I mean, just because she's younger and, you know, sometimes there's that tension of, well, I'm the parent, like, why aren't you listening? But just trying to figure out how to communicate better with her. I really started to realize, like, gosh, there's a lot on stake, especially the older she got. Just really wanting that relationship to be better. Like knowing that, hey, it's good, but there's still some things with communication and I don't want her to move out of the house and not have a great relationship with her. That's really important to me. So I'm willing to, you know, for me, it was BetterHelp. It's an online therapist that I've used in different seasons. One was after you broke your leg, not the current situation, but the situation 2 years ago. After all of that, I really felt like I was dealing with adrenal fatigue. I'd been caretaker and I just was wiped mentally, physically, emotionally. I had started a BetterHelp subscription and then I had ended that. But probably last summer, maybe, our daughter was going into her senior year. And I just thought, you know what? I just want to do like a one-time, couple of time check-in. So through that platform, they had an option to just do, you know, a 1 month subscription or a couple weeks. So I just fired that back up and my gal was available. And I said, hey, for the most part, things are going great, but here's what I'm seeing. I want your guidance. How can I communicate better? What do you think of the situation? Why is this happening? You know, here's one situation that happened. Here's another. I feel like they're different situations, but it's similar communication patterns. What can I do?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I told our daughter that too. I just said, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. I want our relationship to be great, not just okay. I want it to be great.
Yeah.
So I think that for sure is one example.
Yeah, that's great, Michelle. Thanks for sharing that. You know, I think we're seeing this so much, Michelle, just everywhere. And I think people that are struggling but not letting go of their pride to get the help that they need. Maybe that's in marriage, maybe that's in finances, maybe that's in parenting. I think earlier this year we had Pastor Robert Lewis on. He was creator of like Authentic Manhood, author, pastor, just a great guy. But he had shared this concept of like, we don't know how to be husband and wife, to be mom or dad, to do some of these things.
Never done it before.
Like
until now.
Right.
Until now in your life.
Yeah. So like it's okay to not know. But the answer is really like, are you willing to let go of your pride and get help you need?
Right.
If you're struggling in your marriage, man, seek out a mentor, seek out a therapist or a counselor, or resources, a pastor, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Seek out those resources. If it's something along the line of finances, there's great courses. We just shared that. There's Financial Peace University that a lot of local churches offer. There's
it's the number one financial class in America, and because I was just doing some work with this earlier, they say that it's the fastest way to pay off debt and build wealth.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that?
Right. Or seek out a professional, that can help you with it. There's so many out there.
Yeah, I think of the other like parachurch ministries that our church partners with, but there really is something for every area. Let's say it is a hurt, habit, or hang up. Celebrate Recovery is actually a national program. We offer one here at our church, but they are everywhere. They're amazing. If it's a recovery, it's addiction. If it's a hurt, you're hung up on something. Even the example I gave of the eating disorder, Celebrate Recovery would be an appropriate group for that. If it's an addiction, whatever, that would be a great group. There are groups like Grief Share, if it's, grief you're going through, divorce care.
Yeah.
There's so many great groups that are meant for healing, and it just takes that step of going past the pride and stepping up.
Yeah.
Signing up for, or maybe it's a life group, Ryan.
Right.
Regardless of what you're going through, getting with a solid group of people, a small group that can really speak into you. And I think that is a big thing that's scary. It could be scary for people just to take that step. It might be a pride thing, especially if there's some brokenness and you're just like, gosh, I don't know. Are these people going to think, oh, wow, what a mess? No, they're not going to think that. They're going to say, oh my gosh, we're so glad that you're here. Come do life with us. Yeah. We're glad that you're here.
Yeah. And just being really honest about this, this is something that I think I've struggled with a lot in my life, and just different events that have happened. And we've shared a lot of this, but part of, I think for a lot of guys, this is a really hard topic. It's a really hard thing to let go of.
Would you share some of those just to catch people up to speed, briefly, if they're not familiar?
Yeah. I think anytime something happens, Michelle, we talked about this a little bit earlier, like through losing a spouse, so many people wanted to help. And, I declined so much of it at the time. One, I was super broken. I was super hurting, and it was easier for me to block them out. And just letting go and accepting help. Mm. It's something that's really hard to do. And even when, through broken legs and ACLs and whatever else
hamstring,
I managed to break
tibia,
or tear.
ACL, meniscus.
People want to help. And it's for whatever reason, it's hard.
I'm
it's hard
so
to
glad
accept it.
That you brought that up. It feels uncomfortable, right? Because I think the natural tendency is to be like, nope, we're fine. Hey, can we bring you dinner? No, it's okay, we're fine. And I think that was one pivot that we did, I don't know, during the last injury. that really ended up being a huge blessing. And I would tell you, our listeners, this. You will be blessed by receiving help from people if they offer it, just a pure heart, they offer it and want to help. But they're going to be blessed too because they wouldn't offer if they didn't want to help.
Right.
So accept it, and that is a hard thing. And I've had moments where people have said, yeah, same thing. Can we cook you dinner? And I've just learned to say, you know what? That would be great.
Right.
Yes, thank you. Hey, can I bring you a coffee? You know what? That would be great. Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
I would actually really love that. That would mean a lot.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
It's very hard to do. And I think, but being willing to say, I don't know, or being willing to say, I'm broken, I need help. It's something I've struggled with, just in all honesty. It's hard, but it is such a blessing. It's a blessing to you. It's a blessing to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we've talked a lot about, of not taking away their blessing.
Right.
Like they want to bless you, and not taking that away and accepting it.
Yeah. Think about how good you feel when you've gotten to do that giving, and then flip that and keep that in mind the next time that you're going through something.
Yeah.
Because it really is a blessing to be able to show up with something for a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Ryan, I love that we've talked about these kind of situational things. But the other thing I thought we should mention is all of the daily moments. So we talked about some of the big things, whether you're being prideful with your finances or, walking through a tough situation, whatever. But I think I don't want to wrap this episode up without talking about the little micro daily pride-filled moments.
Yeah.
And you talked about that a little bit with the driving in the car situation, but I think just applying that to your spouse and your family, think about how many times that happens throughout the day, where it's just saying, you know what, I was wrong and I'm sorry. Think about how much that will de-escalate the situation, for one, and two, just really leading your family well.
Yeah.
If you can do that.
Yeah.
Modeling it for your kids, showing that compassion to your spouse. And I think, like that car example, when you came and said that to our family, it turned me from being what could have been upset with you to really softening my heart and realizing, wow, first, we're human, we mess up, but Ryan is broken about it. He's apologizing. He's trying to make it right. And that just changed my demeanor with how I responded to you. And I think I could just see it in our son's eyes. He really looks up to you. So to hear that from you just meant a lot. And I feel like he learned such a lesson that day. Hey, Dad did say that, but he was sorry. And, he was really mature, in just how you came and approached that. Because you are such a role model, to our kids. So I think there's so many opportunities either at your house or even in your workplace. I was going to say that's probably another example for me. Yeah. One was going to counseling, but two, just daily on the job situation. And sometimes as a leader, I feel like it's even being humble on behalf of your team. Sometimes it's just taking that ownership. So maybe it's doing that for your team or your family. Just, you know what? Hey, we misread that. Hey, we were in the wrong. But if you can just be humble, I feel like that's a really great leadership quality.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to add on that too, of realizing you don't know it all, and continuing to seek growth and seek answers. I think that is also something of letting go of that and just continually humbling yourself and learning and growing.
Yeah.
I think that's a daily task of being a husband, being a father, being an employee, of just constantly learning, constantly growing every day. Never like, oh, I know everything.
Right.
Because I don't.
and I don't think anyone expects you. Isn't it funny that we think we should know everything?
Yeah.
But I think if you were to ask your boss or your family, nobody expects you to know everything. So why would you put that standard on yourself? Ryan, I'll throw this in. We did a career day this week for my job. We had 100 different students, college juniors and seniors that came to learn about the marketing and advertising industry. And as I listened to the panelists in the roundtables, that was very common advice that people would give. They would say, ask questions. You're not expected to know everything. Yeah. Ask questions. So, AKA, don't be prideful.
Yeah.
Ask for help. Admit when you're wrong. And that's going to go really far.
Yep. So consider this your fire warning. Michelle, do you know what time it is?
It's mystery question time.
Mystery question time.
And we have a bunch of new questions. Thank you so much. We had a marriage date night and got some good, it looks like we got some good responses. Yeah. So, do I get to pick?
I'll let you draw.
Actually, I have to draw because Ryan likes to fidget with the paper.
Apparently, I crinkle the paper.
You don't crinkle it, you like smooth it out.
Right. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good, love. You're doing great. All right, question. When times are tough in marriage or in the family, what advice would you give to help keep us together and not to lose hope? When times are tough in marriage or in the family, what advice would you give to help keep us together and not to lose hope? All right, well, thank you for submitting this question. Ryan, do you want to go first?
I got a perfect answer. Well, I don't know if it's perfect, but it ties directly into what we talked about. I think it's letting go of your pride and accepting help.
Yeah.
I think that's a really key component to it, because there are people that want to help, and accepting that is a big piece of it. I would obviously as well say, I think your faith is an incredible part of that as well. And I think your faith community is a big piece of that as well.
Yeah, fantastic responses, Ryan. I like we said about being plugged in with the faith community too. I would say deciding not to give up. I think that there are just certain words that you should take off the table and not throw around lightly. And you should I think that was something we did early on in our marriage. We've never joked about divorce. It's not a joking matter. We've never thrown that around lightly. It's never been used as a weapon. And I think just being very committed from the beginning and staying through that, you know what, there is going to be a whole lot of stuff and we don't even know it all yet, but we're just deciding right now, we're going to work through it.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to being on the same team, knowing that things might be really tough right now. We've shared a number of things with you guys. Right now we are recovering with Ryan's ACL. The recovery, we are now past a month out from surgery, and it's been very, very slow and difficult, and a lot of inflammation and some, just feels like setbacks, but we are determined to get through it together.
Yeah.
And just knowing that it's a season too, things might be tough for a season situationally. Maybe there's something going on with a child or a work situation, but knowing that things might be tough, but that will pass. Yeah. Ryan, I love what you said about getting help too.
Michelle, that's a great answer. Love it.
Thanks, love.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you to our listener for joining us today for the Celebrate Marriagecast. As always, you can find us in our marriage resources at celebrate.church/marriage. You can find our church service times at celebrate.church. We would love to have you as part of our online church community. And you also can send a mystery question to our text line, 605-951-0110. We have that in our show notes as well. And we hope that you have a great week. See ya.
Have a great week.